in Pharmaceuticals in association with Higher Secondary Principals Forum.
A very good morning, my dear students, and a warm welcome to this class of Political Science. I am teacher Audrey Fernandes from Guardian Angel Higher Secondary School, Curchorem, and today I will be teaching you the chapter Rise of Popular Movements. Before I begin with the chapter, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Principals Forum and our Prudent media for helping us during this pandemic in making our teaching and learning very effective and interesting. Now coming back to our topic, the rise of popular movements, it is in this book, Politics in India Since Independence, the 7th chapter, and this topic consists of 3 marks. So we are going to get 2 questions. One will be of 1 mark and the next question is of 2 marks. So total 3 marks. There will be one objective type question. In that objective, it is a one-word answer question. You have to give a one-word answer. There is no, it is not multiple choice. No choices are given. And the second one is small answer type. So 2 questions of 3 marks, 1 mark and 2 marks. Now, in this chapter, Rise of Popular Movements, we are going to learn about what are popular movements. Which sections of the Indian society have they mobilized? What is the main agenda of these movements? And what role do they play in a democratic setup? Now, before I begin with my chapter, let us test our previous knowledge. The previous chapter that you all have learned is Crisis of Democratic Order. And in this chapter, we have seen that after 3 decades of independence, the people of India were getting impatient. There was an uneasiness going on, especially in the states of Bihar and Gujarat. Social movements had started. And why did this social movement start? Because the prices of essential commodities like food grains and cooking oil, they had skyrocketed and it was beyond the reach of the common man. So that is the reason students in Bihar and Gujarat, they came together and they protested. And there were some other issues also like corruption, unemployment. To such an extent, they created an impact to such an extent that in one of the states, president's rule was imposed and the students succeeded. They were able to mobilize the other sections of the society like women, Dalits, peasants, students. They all started coming under the banner of social organization to voice their demands. And that gave the rise of popular movements. Some movements became so popular that they came in the textbooks and we are learning them today. So let us see which are the popular movements that we are going to study today. The popular movements that we have to learn today, my dear students, are the Chipko movement, the Dalit Panthers, the Bharatiya Kisan Union, the Anti-Arak movement and the Narmada Bachao Andolan. These are some of the movements which were very popular because they created an impact on the Indian society. Let us begin with the Chipko movement. Now this picture is there on your textbook, the first page, page 129 of the chapter, that is there, this picture, the Chipko movement. And you have seen there is a lady and there is a man there. So the lady is Gauri Devi and the man is Sundar Lal. These were the people who led this campaign. Okay? They were the ones who were the front they were of the agitation. They were leading the agitation. And the Chipko movement started in April 1973 in Uttarakhand. Now I have highlighted that word Uttarakhand because I will be speaking a little more about this place Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand is the northern state of India and it is called as the Devabhumi. Now why it is called as the Devabhumi? Because there are a lot of Hindu temples and pilgrim sites which are situated there, and this place lies in the Himalayas, and it has two capitals. The winter capital of Uttarakhand is Dehradun and the summer capital is Chamoli. So, our Chipko movement began in the Chamoli district of Uttarakhand, the summer capital of Uttarakhand. Now, what is this Chipko movement? You already have previous knowledge here because I believe you have done this chapter in the 10th standard. So, some knowledge you already have about the Chipko movement. So, it will become very easy for you to understand. It is a forest conservation movement in India. The villagers were protesting against commercial logging, meaning, see, when the villagers used to go to the forest to cut the trees, the forest officials refused permission. They would not allow them to cut the trees, and the villagers needed these trees, to make agricultural tools. So, forest officials were not allowing them to cut the trees, but the same forest officials, what they would do? They would sell this patch of land to a sports manufacturing company to prepare sports goods. Now, that is called as commercial logging. Now, this made the villagers very angry. So, they went and asked the forest officials they questioned them regarding this move of the forest officials, and they did not pay. The forest officials did not pay any heed to their demands and still went on cutting the trees. Now, Sundarlal, he led the movement. The men were kept there to guard the trees, they were not allowing the trees to be cut. But then the forest contractors, they started increasing the alcohol to men. They started giving them alcohol and cut the trees and take it away. And that is the reason women were made to play an active role in this Chipko movement. They led the movement from the front. The women came under the leadership of Gauri Devi and some other ladies. See, this picture itself will tell you what role did the women play here. The government auctioned around 2,500 trees, and Gauri Devi came to know about this. So, she went to that place with around 30 women, and they all hugged the trees. Chipko movement is that, hugged the trees, and they did not allow them to cut a single tree. Lot of pressure was used by the government on these people, they were even frightened by showing guns, but she did not get scared. She said, shoot me, but I will not allow you all to cut a single tree, because that is our natural resource. It is given by God, it is not man-made, it is a natural resource, and I am not going to allow you to cut a single tree. So, the officials they tried their level best, but then they had to go back. They could not, they went back without cutting a single tree. And the villagers, they put some other demands also. Now, what were the other demands? They said, we want control over our natural resources. We don't want you all to, somebody else will not control our natural resource. We want control over our natural resource. We want sustainable development, meaning you can develop but not at the cost of the nature. Don't cut the trees and develop. You keep the nature, don't touch the nature. Keep it as it is and develop. Okay? Then we want economic security. What is this economic security? Guarantee of minimum wages. Give us that guarantee of minimum wages. And the icing on the cake. What was the icing on the cake of this movement? The icing on the cake of this movement was, this movement made the government of India pass the Forest Protection Act, and this act was passed, and there was a ban put on cutting of forest for 15 years in the Himalayan areas until the green cover was fully restored. So, this was their achievement in the Chipko movement. Okay? So, this is all about a Chipko movement. Now, dear students, let us move to our next popular movement, that is the Dalit Panthers. Now, what are these Dalit Panthers? You have seen, I have put a picture here of the panther. Dalit Panthers was a movement which was started by the educated youth in the state of Maharashtra. What happened was, India, it started on 29th May 1972. And our country that time was celebrating 25 years of independence. And when the country was celebrating 25 years of independence, on the other hand, 42 Dalits were burned alive. 2 Dalit women were paraded naked because they drew water from the well which was meant for the upper caste. So, all these atrocities were going on in our country, and this side we were having celebrations of our 25 years of independence. And so, this youth, they got together. I will tell you some of the names, some of the youth, this educated youth who got together. They were Namdeo Dasal, J.V. Power, Raja Dhale and Arjun Dhangle. They all got together and they were inspired by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar and the US Black Panthers. What was happening here? There was caste discrimination going on in India and there was racial discrimination going on in America and South Africa. So, here people were discriminated on the basis of caste and there people were discriminated on the basis of race, color. So, they got together and they started this movement, the Dalit Panthers. Now, it was a militant organization. See, we have like two types of groups. In history we have studied the extremists and the moderates. Now, these people were the extremists. The militant, it was like a militant organization which was started by this youth because they could not tolerate what was going on in the Indian society in spite of having our constitution in place, having all the rights, everything is written down, but in practice things were not moving. So, that is the reason they were forced to form this organization, the Dalit Panthers. Now, what were the activities that were conducted by the Dalit Panthers? They were fighting against increasing atrocities on Dalits. Day by day, there were atrocities. I have just given you an example. Day by day, there were atrocities. Dalits were discriminated. Day by day, increasing atrocities. They were fighting against caste-based inequalities. There was, we already know that our Indian society is divided into caste. So, all these inequalities which were meted out which were given to the lower caste, they were fighting against these inequalities. They were fighting for reservations and social justice. To treat them with respect and dignity in the society, very, very important. Every human being has the right to be treated with respect and dignity. This was not happening. This was not happening, and that is the reason they were fighting against this caste, they wanted social justice. They wanted to destroy the caste system and they wanted to help the oppressed sections and poor, landless, poor peasants. So, they were basically fighting for the underprivileged and the downtrodden sections of the Indian society. They were helping for their cause. Okay? And they were, see these two pictures that I am showing you is about Namdeo Dasal and Martin Luther King. Now, Namdeo Dasal, he is the man I told you, he was the man who started in India the Dalit Panthers. Namdeo Dasal, this man was awarded. They are just not any ordinary youth, they are educated youth. They are poets and writers. Not all of us can be a poet and writer. These people were. Okay, they have reached to this level. Namdeo Dasal was awarded the Padma Shri. Now, what is this Padma Shri? It is the 4th highest civilian award which is given in India every year on Republic Day. So, he was awarded the Padma Shri and in 1999, and also he was given the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Sahitya Academy in 2004. He also participated in the Berlin International Festival. And he has a lot of achievements. This man has really worked to help against caste discrimination in India. And he's famous, if you get a chance, just Google it out and see his famous poetry, beautiful one. I have read one that is on hunger. And this poetry, it's written in Marathi. He's a Marathi poet. It's written in Marathi, but there's a translation in English. You can Google it out and go through it. Beautiful, heart-touching poem. Okay. And then we have this Martin Luther King. Now he was the champion of this movement, the Black Panthers. He had seen what kind of treatment, racial discrimination was going on, and so he took up the movement. And his famous speech, all of you will know his famous speech, "I have a dream," that he has written what kind of a dream he has for the people. He has a dream to end racism. He has a dream to provide justice. He has a dream to provide equality. So all this is mentioned in his famous speech, "I have a dream." So what was the main effect of this Dalit movement? The main effect of the Dalit movement was they were able to mobilize people not only in the state of Maharashtra, but in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka and other parts of India. People were made aware. People were made aware, some of them who did not know what kind of rights they are supposed to get. They were made aware, and these people, the Dalit Panthers, they were going on the ideologies of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Jyotirao Phule and Karl Marx, and they were able to mobilize the people and educate them on the rights, that what kind of treatment they should get in our Indian society. So this is all about our Dalit Panthers. Now dear students, let us go to the next movement, that is Bharatiya Kisan Union. Now Bharatiya Kisan Union, the word itself will tell you, see, Chipko movement, environmental movement, Dalit Panthers, caste discrimination. Bharatiya Kisan Union, the name itself will tell you that this is a movement of the farmers, and this movement was founded by Chaudhry Charan Singh. Now Chaudhry Charan Singh, he was helping the farmers from the Punjab area, okay, and in Uttar Pradesh it was founded by Mahendra Singh Tikayat, that is on 17th October 1986 in Uttar Pradesh, but in Punjab it was formed earlier. Now basically when I talk about Chaudhry Charan Singh, he was the 5th Prime Minister of our country. Chaudhry Charan Singh was the 5th Prime Minister of our country, and he was said to be the Messiah of the farmers. He was their savior, their Messiah. He has done a lot for this, for the farmers. And Mahendra Singh Tikayat, he was the leader who led the movement afterwards, okay, in Uttar Pradesh, the farmers movement. Now what were the issues which were addressed by the Bharatiya Kisan Union? First and foremost, they wanted the government to have higher floor price for sugarcane and wheat. See, the government is fixing some rates, okay, for the crop. So they wanted them not to fix the minimum prices are fixed by the government, support price. So they wanted the government to fix a higher price for this sugarcane and wheat, so that it could benefit the farmers. Because what happens, you know, in agriculture you cannot make profits, tons and tons of profits. It is like, you know, you sustain with whatever you get. So that is the reason they wanted them to give a higher price. Then they wanted the government to supply them electricity at a reasonable rates, so that it would help them in their agricultural produce. And then they wanted the government to waive off repayments of loans which the farmers have taken. Now what happens, sometimes the farmers are forced to take loans, no? They have to take the loan to buy a tractor, to buy a tiller, to buy some machineries. So that is the reason then they are unable. Sometimes the crop goes into a failure. There is a drought, there is a flood, so you cannot do anything about it. So that is the reason they wanted the government to waive off the repayments of the loans. And a beautiful thing, they wanted the government to provide pension to farmers. See, if this economic security is given, then definitely people will go in for farming. Otherwise, you know, people resist to go in for farming. So they wanted the government to provide pension for farmers, maybe a little amount given, okay, some economic security. And they wanted the abolition of restrictions on interstate movements of farm produce. What happens, you know, the things come now. So even in Goa we get vegetables from Belgaum and all. So there is some interstate which is there, which goes from one state to the other. So they wanted to remove the restrictions. Some restrictions are put on the movement of this, like, you know, you have to pay some this. So they wanted these restrictions to be removed. These were the demands, these were the issues which were addressed by the Bharatiya Kisan Union. And then this organization, now that how it started in Uttar Pradesh was, this is what the government, they were asking from the government. But there in 1988, the government increased the electricity rates. And that is the reason around 20,000 farmers, they gathered in the city of Meerut in Uttar Pradesh. And they protested outside the district collector's office. They stayed there for 3 weeks. Yeah, they camped outside the district collector's office for 3 weeks. They stayed there outside the district collector's office. They did not move until their demands were fulfilled. And this, they were led by Mahendra Singh Tikayat, and this made the government to fulfill their demands, because they were they were peacefully protesting. They were not they were sitting there and camping there. So once the demands were fulfilled, then they came away. They left that place and they came back. Okay. Now what are the characteristics of the Bharatiya Kisan Union? See, my dear students, the Bharatiya Kisan Union, they were using pressure, they were having rallies, demonstrations, sit-ins. Okay, it was a peaceful agitation. And whenever they used to have rallies, it was not in thousands, it was not in hundreds and thousands. Lakhs of people would come to support them, lakhs of farmers. Once there was around a rally which was held with around 8 lakh farmers. So you can see the strength. Okay, why? Because they were able to mobilize by using the caste linkages of the farmers, and the farmers would come to fulfill their demands. So most of the Bharatiya Kisan Union members, they belong to a single community. So it was a well organized movement. It is to become very easy to get them along with you, very, very easy. And they could sustain for a long time, because I told you this movement was a well organized movement. So that is the reason they could sustain for a very long time, and they had support. Their rallies used to be in thousands and lakhs. Okay, and this organization of the farmers, they were able to get some of their economic demands accepted. So they were able to get, I had told you what were the demands, the issues that they were addressing. So some of them, they were able to get it fulfilled from the government. So this is about a Bharatiya Kisan Union. Then the next movement that we have to learn is anti-arak movement. Now anti-arak movement is a movement against liquor. See, in Goa we have urak, no? Like that in Andhra Pradesh there was something called as arak. So in Andhra Pradesh there was in January 1990, there was an adult literacy movement which was going on in Andhra Pradesh and in Nellore district of Andhra Pradesh, and the women, they were attending this. So when they were attending this adult literacy campaign, most of the women, they were complaining of their men consuming this local drink, that is arak, and how this was getting some, they were having unsettled domestic life. They were having problems in their life because of this drinking habit of their husbands. They were facing so much of physical and mental health issues. The women as the full household plus the men, what the men would do, they would drink and they would not go to work. And when they would not go to work, again that economic problem, no food to eat, sometimes because some of them are daily laborers, so no money, no food. So it was becoming very difficult for the women of the Nellore district. So when they were talking about this problem, they were able to mobilize women of other states also, other villages, other states. So they all came together and they said, we have to do something regarding this drinking habit of our, which is ruining our life. So they all came together, around 5,000 women came together and they led the campaign against the drinking, against this. They had certain demands. What they demanded? They said, we want closure of wine shops and we want a prohibition to this sale of arak in Andhra Pradesh and this other districts also. We want a prohibition on the sale of arak. So this they were able to, the achievement of the movement was they were able to get a ban on the sale of arak. Okay, and other issues also were raised when they were leading this movement. There was certain things which the women were facing, like for example domestic violence. The women were facing domestic violence, and they spoke about this domestic violence, and they could find a solution to their problems. They openly spoke about domestic violence, how they have been harassed and beaten up and all that. Then they spoke about the custom of dowry, how the custom of dowry, like how it is when you get the if you do not get dowry, how you have been harassed. So the laws came that within 7 years of marriage, if anybody, if any bride, if any girl dies, then there are stringent punishments which are given. There's a rule which is there. So they were talking about this custom of dowry. Then they started talking about sexual abuse at work. Normally what happens is, it's very difficult to talk about sexual abuse at work. Everybody feels shy. They will not like to talk about this. But here, because they were mobilized and because they were educated at adult literacy camp which was held, they were able to talk about sexual abuse at work openly. They could discuss about this type of harassments which were given to women. And then the last thing was gender inequalities, the different type of gender equalities that they were facing between male and female. So all these problems they could discuss, and they could get they were able to get certain legislations passed also. Like for example, we know that there is a reservation of seats which are kept for women now in politics, okay, for different caste. And at the ground level, at the panchayat level or the municipality level, that is Article 73 of the Indian Constitution and Article 74 of the Indian Constitution. They have kept made certain changes, implementations are done, changes are done. Okay, and now seats are kept reserved for women, so they are encouraged to enter politics, and the caste also. So all these things they were able to get. It is because of this popular movements that somehow or the other an impact is created on the Indian society, where legislations are made. They just don't come up like that. There is somebody who is demanding for that, and their demands are fulfilled. So this is about a anti-Arak movement. The next thing that we have to, the movement that is we have to do is about Narmada Bachao Andolan. Now Narmada Bachao Andolan is a social movement, and it is a social movement which was helped by the environmentalists and the native tribal farmers. They all came together, the human rights activists, they all came together, and they were protesting against a number of large dams which were supposed to be built across river Narmada. Now this river Narmada flows through the states of Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. And it was founded by this movement, Narmada Bachao Andolan is a movement which was founded by Medha Patkar in 1985. She was you can see her in the picture there, she is there, Medha Patkar. She was the founder of the movement, Narmada Bachao Andolan. Now, this Narmada Bachao Andolan was formed because of Sardar Sarovar project. Sardar Sarovar project is an ambitious developmental project launched in the Narmada Valley of central India in the early 80s. This project consists of 30 big dams, 135 medium dams and around 3,000 small dams. So you can know on this 30 big dams, 135 medium and 3,000 small dams, you can know how big this project is. Okay? So it is a big project. These were to be constructed on the river Narmada and its tributaries that flow across Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat and Maharashtra. Now the benefits of this project. The government says that this project is going to benefit in terms of drinking water, irrigation facilities, generation of electricity and increase in agricultural production. The project would benefit. It would provide drinking water to the people, help them, irrigation facilities for their agriculture, electricity, and this in turn will increase their agricultural production. And also effectively it will control the floods and drought situation. Whenever there are floods and droughts, that would be effectively controlled. So, this was the Sardar Sarovar project. Now, what was the debate? Why the Narmada Bachao Andolan was formed? The debate was, after constructing the dams, 30 big dams, 135 medium dams, 3000 small dams on the river Narmada, what would happen? There would be 245 villages from these states, they would get submerged under water. Okay? So, 245 villages would get submerged, and a relocation. Now, there are people living in these villages. No, it is not that the villages get submerged and okay, fine, let it be. No, there are people living in the villages. So, around 2.5 lakh people had to be relocated. Definitely, you have to give them somewhere else place to live. Okay, provide them with new place. They had to be relocated. So, Narmada Bachao Andolan was a movement to save Narmada. That is the reason why this Narmada Bachao Andolan came, because it was around this time when they came to know that this were the difficulties, that around 245 villages would be submerged and 2.5 lakh people would be had to be relocated, then the Narmada Bachao Andolan was formed. And this movement demanded that there should be cost benefit analysis of the major development projects, including social cost, meaning you are building the dams not at the cost of 2.5 lakh people. So, that had to be first settled. These people have to be first settled. Okay? So, social cost means what? A resettlement of the project affected people. You have to resettle them, you just can't leave them like that. You have to resettle them, and there would be a serious loss to their livelihood also. So, you have to provide them with livelihood. You just can't say that okay fine, we are resettling you. No, they have lost their livelihood there, because they were living in their villages, then they were carrying out some of their occupations. So, now they will lose that, from where the money will come and how they are going to survive. So, you have to provide them with livelihood and culture and depletion of ecological resources. So, many considerations. So, Narmada Bachao Andolan, like they were forcing the government to rehabilitate the people, and then they, after some time, some years, they said, they showed their total opposition to the dam. They said no, now we don't want any relocation, nothing, but you have to stop constructing of this dam, the dams whichever you all are supposed to, the Sardar Sarovar project, you have to stop constructing them. Okay? And this Andolan, it continued for more than 20 years. For more than 20 years it continued, and it used the Narmada Bachao Andolan, they used every democratic strategy. They put forward every democratic strategy to fulfill their demands, every democratic strategy. And then there was this done, like the case was put in the court, and then the Supreme Court gave its judgment, all those things were done. Okay? But then these popular movements, whenever they start, they are always, they have an impact, they create an impact. Like for example, I was telling you, the Chipko movement, it was one of the strongest movement of strongest agitation of that era. Like it was said to be one of the strongest agitation, because the Forest Protection Act was passed during the Chipko movement. Okay? And like that, each and every movement, like reservations were made and so many other things were passed, like for the protection of the rights of those people who are discriminated, the whoever has faced such difficulties in the society. So these were the popular movements that we have done, that is the Chipko movement, the Dalit Panthers, the Bharatiya Kisan Union, and Narmada Bachao Andolan and NT-Arak movement. These were some of the popular movements. Now, there are some movements called as party-based movements and non-party based movements. I'll just brief you all up, just give you all some knowledge about this party-based movements and non-party based movements. What are party-based movements? Party-based movements are those movements which are having the backing of a political party, okay? And they, for example, there was one, the peasants movement in Telangana region of Andhra Pradesh. This movement was, they had a massive agitation and it was supported by the Communist Party. So like that, you have, these are called as party based movement. This was during soon after independence. So party based movements, they get the help and they also help the parties during elections. And here non-party based movements, they are just social organizations. They just come up whenever there is their nature is different. Whenever there is a need, they will come up. They do not support any political party, nor do they belong to any political party. And then after some time, they may even once their demands are done, they may they may survive or they may not survive, non-party based movement. And party based movement, they may later come into that organization which they have started, they may come into contest elections and make a form a political party. So these are called as party based movements and non-party based movements. Now, there are some lessons which these popular movements teach us. And dear students, the popular movements, they help us to understand better the nature of democratic politics. Our democratic politics, nature of democratic politics. These popular movements, they do not create any problem. They are not creating any problem. They only rectify the functioning of the party politics. They only want some changes. They do not create any problem. Okay? And these popular movements, they ensure effective representation of diverse groups, the different groups in our society, the women, the Dalits, the students, the peasants, and there are so many other groups which are there in the society. So they represent their demands and sometimes they are able to fulfill also. They are able to make the government to fulfill the demands. And the popular movements, they suggest new forms of active participation and thus broaden the idea of participation in India's democracy. Okay? So it is, these are the lessons, these are the three lessons that we learn from popular movements. So dear students, as we come towards the end of the lesson, we have learned today in our chapter Rise of Popular Movements, we have learned Chipko movement, Dalit Panthers, Bharatiya Kisan Union, NT-Arak movement and Narmada Bachao Andolan. These are the movements that we have learnt and what impact they had on our Indian society. So thank you very much my dear students for listening to this chapter on Rise of Popular Movements, and once again I would like to thank our Principals Forum and the Prudent Media for helping us during this pandemic. So here is a simple reminder for all of you: wear a mask, maintain hand hygiene, practice social distancing and stay safe. Pray for each other and God bless each one of you. Thank you.
Prudent Scholars, powered by Lupin Pharmaceuticals.
अब आपकी सुरक्षा आपके हाथों में। ल्यूपी सेफ हैंड सैनिटाइजर, आपका और चेन्नई सुपर किंग्स का फर्स्ट लाइन ऑफ डिफेंस। अब आपकी सुरक्षा आपके हाथों में। ल्यूपी सेफ हैंड सैनिटाइजर, आपका और चेन्नई सुपर किंग्स का फर्स्ट लाइन ऑफ डिफेंस। अब आपकी सुरक्षा आपके हाथों में। ल्यूपी सेफ हैंड सैनिटाइजर, आपका और चेन्नई सुपर किंग्स का फर्स्ट लाइन ऑफ डिफेंस।